Good morning, everybody. If you haven't got your ticket yet for my conversation with Maxime Bernier in Guelph, get it now. Link is in the description. It's happening next week, next Friday, July 19th at 7 p.m., and I hope to see you there. A little bit of news on this. I will not be live streaming this. I've spoken with a professional videographer, and I said, this is my idea. Is this a good idea? And he said, there is a better way to do that. And in order to do it in a better way, I can't live stream it. And I think that it's worth the trade. I will be posting it on YouTube, but it will take a couple of days to finalize and edit and post. So if you want to see it live, well, link is in the description. I hope to see you there. It'll be lots of fun. Over the weekend, Canada participated in the Media Freedom Conference in London 2019. Now, have you read 1984? The 1984 uses doublespeak, and if you know what doublespeak is, well, that's what this is. Media Freedom, London 2019. That's doublespeak. And Canada enthusiastically participated in this conference. Now, here's the context that I'll give you that I'm speaking about this in. Just recently, being Friday, I think, maybe Thursday, Tommy Robinson was sent back to jail for reporting on Muslim rape gangs. He was standing in front of the courthouse and he asked somebody a question. He said, like, how do you feel about being convicted, or how do you feel being accused, et cetera, et cetera. And for that action, he was found in contempt of court and sentenced to jail time. He was then taken out of jail because the appeals court said this is a miscarriage of justice, and then retried and found guilty and then sent back to prison. Unbelievable. So he's in jail for asking a convicted rapist how he feels about his conviction. And this happened. Over the weekend, this is Miss Freeland's assistant or aide or person who helps her. And she was going to give, not the assistant, Miss Freeland, was going to give a media scrum. So the assistant came to get Global News and some selected news organizations, excluding Andrew Lawton and Sheila Gunn Reid from The Rebel. And Andrew Lawton is his own, the True North or News, I believe, is his news organization. So those two were excluded. And I'm not going to show this video, but you should go watch the video. It's pretty scary. So that at the press freedom event, which Canada enthusiastically participated in, and then draconianly tried to silence and remove the press that they don't like during the press freedom event, right? Very interesting. I couldn't find any news reports on that, though, however, except for The Rebel. The Rebel reported on it, and they said CBC, CTV stand up for Rebel Media's rights to press freedom. And Mr. Levent says, thank you, CBC. I can't believe I'm writing those words, but I mean it. And thank you, CTV and Globals and Globe and Mail and Al Jazeera at Keir Freeland tried to censor us at a press freedom conference, and you wouldn't let her. You stood with us, and she backed down. And here is Andrew Lawton, and he says, quote, reporters from CBC, CTV, Globe and Mail, and Al Jazeera refused to participate in a scrum with Chrystia Freeland if Sheila Gunn Reid and I were not included. Our media colleagues stood firm, and Freeland's office eventually let us all attend and ask a question. So, interesting, right? Media Freedom Conference, but in the context of sending that mean Tommy Robinson to jail, and within the context of Canada's minister, who was herself a reporter, saying, no, you two can't come. This is a press freedom event after all. Speaking of tone deaf, here's Jagmeet Singh launching a plank of the NDP policy, I guess. And he thinks, within the context of housing crisis, fentanyl crisis, historic low investment in Canada, historic low oil revenue due to having to sell to the United States at a loss because we have no refineries. In that context, with housing prices increasing, gas prices increasing, food prices increasing, Jagmeet Singh thinks we should focus on a national cycling strategy. CTV News is reporting, quote, Jagmeet Singh says Canada needs a national cycling strategy. Okay. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is a well-known cycling enthusiast whose folding bike seems to travel almost everywhere he does. Singh now wants to bring his love for two-wheel transportation to Canadians everywhere with a national strategy to make cycling safer for everyone. On Thursday, Singh led a bike tour of downtown Ottawa with several of his party's local candidates to highlight the need for better cycling infrastructure. I scroll down. Singh says investing in transit and cycling infrastructure is not only helpful to reduce the amount of time Canadians spend stuck in traffic, it's also better for the environment. Quote, we're determined to make it easier and safer to ride, Singh tweeted before embarking on a 4-kilometer bike from an Ottawa bike store to the parliamentary district. Okay, here's despite the tone deafness of this announcement in the context of what Canada is facing, in the middle of January, if you're in Ottawa, if you live 2 kilometers from work, are you really seriously going to pull out your bike? Really? This policy makes no sense because 6 months of the year, it doesn't make sense to bike in Canada. It just doesn't. And it's not just me saying that. The census data also backs this up. Like, if you look at the Census 2016 data, there's very few people who are biking to work. Very few when you compare it to people taking cars, having other people drive them in cars, so taxi or friend, commuting, carpooling, and transit. It's like a very, very small amount. And so I don't know who this policy plank is geared towards, but it's not a realistic policy plank because people don't do that. You have to do things that people will do, and they don't do that. And I think that the other thing I'm going to point out here is he talks about bicycle safety, and he's not wearing a helmet. I mean, it's proven to be a lot more safe to wear a helmet. Wear a helmet, Mr. Singh. Okay, here's the housing crisis I was teasing earlier. National Post is reporting, quote, "One of the most severe housing crises in Canada is currently unfolding in an unexpected place. Charlottetown, PEI. Jeff Gallant sits on a porch on a Sunday on Prince Edward Island. Immigration is going strong here. Young people are staying put, and the economy is, says one former premier, on a tear. By this narrative, the littlest province has students staying to work in the aerospace and wind energy sector. It has newcomers from India, Iran, and China, and with a higher immigration rate than any Western province last year, it has a sense of who are you calling have not. Gallant, however, does not register the province's growth this way. He cannot find a place to live for himself and his 2 children, and he has been evicted twice in 4 months. The situation is remarkable at the moment on the island, where landlords are doing renovations and raising their rents. PEI's aggressive growth has resulted in a housing shortage so acute that Charlottetown has, as of November, a lower vacancy rate than does Toronto. I don't know if I should unpack my life or just wait to be kicked out, Gallant says 2 weeks before receiving an eviction notice. His landlord is selling the home. He works at a shop printing t-shirts and hoodies, and to pay the first month's rent of $1,200 at his current house, he had to borrow money from his mother, who formerly worked at a dollar store, and his stepfather, who works part-time at a bingo hall. In a rental market given out to bidding wars, Gallant says he only managed to get the unit because the landlord thought his son, Logan, 3, was cute. He has 2 months to find another unit, although he plans to appeal the eviction to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission. He envies his friends who live in cheaper cities in New Brunswick. I would love to leave the island, says Gallant. As of last fall, the vacancy rate in Charlottetown is 0.2%, the lowest rate ever recorded in the city by Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. This rate compares to a 1.1% vacancy rate in Toronto. The average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Charlottetown is $921, and the median price of a single detached home is approximately $285,000, an 18% increase from last year. In the GTA, tenants have faced a housing shortage for more than a decade, but now face the crisis of the 905. Now, the crisis of the 905 has entered the 902. We're a small city with big problems, says Charlottetown Mayor Philip Brown. He blames the province as it did not sufficiently invest in bus routes to enable students to live outside Charlottetown or rural healthcare to prevent seniors from needing to urbanize. Affordable housing units, recruitment of construction workers, these duties, he says, belong to the provincial government. Working 4 blocks away, Hannah Bell is the provincial Green Party critic for housing and social development. She says the city should share the responsibility, but has dragged its feet by doing 2 years of surveys. They know 2% of units are used for Airbnb, and they know that the twin sister to a housing crisis is food insecurity, whereby people sacrifice their food budgets to pay rent. She says she has met constituents who cannot find pet-friendly units, so are considering putting down their cats and dogs. The housing shortage is challenging the very identity of the island. It markets itself as the food island, when in fact it has one of the highest rates of childhood food insecurity of any Canadian province. Its slogan is the mighty island, when some constituents, Bell says, are left living in their cars. The bridge to the mainland costs nearly $50, paid only in that direction. It's the island where you have to pay to leave, and Gallant, for one, would be glad to. Interesting, right? So, housing crisis is happening everywhere in Canada. My brother's trying to find a place right now. It's insane. It's insane. It's very difficult to find a place, even in Guelph. Here's the last story I'll leave you with right now. Experienced Chrétien political strategist Kinsella Warren will be helping out Elizabeth May and the Canadian Greens in its war room in the federal election. And I've heard a lot of people thinking that a vote for Greens is a protest vote, or we're not happy with you, Justin Trudeau, so we're going to put Elizabeth May in the balance of power. And I find it interesting because Elizabeth May has said very clearly what she's going to do with that balance of power. What is she going to do with the balance of power? She'll give it to Trudeau. So a vote for the Greens is a vote for Trudeau. Here's Spencer Fernando reporting, quote, Elizabeth May raises possibility of far-left Liberal Green NDP coalition against Conservatives even if Scheer wins the most seats. And I'll just scroll down to the important part. As reported by Alitha Raj of the Huffington Post, quote, if the 2019 election ends up in a minority situation, but the Tories have the most seats, the Green Party leader Elizabeth May thinks the Liberal government should try to form a new government with the support of other parties. Think about that for a second. Even if the Liberals lose, Elizabeth May thinks Trudeau should stay in power. That's crazy and disturbing. Yeah, and realistically, I can't imagine Elizabeth May being the leader of the opposition or prime minister. Can you? Really? Like, what? It's an activist party. It's the policies are very thin, very thin. So thank you for watching, everybody. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca and have a wonderful, wonderful day.